Thank you, and thanks for everyone's patience. And Ms. Jennifer Walker is here with us today. Thank you, Jennifer. And she's the president and CEO and co-founder of Resolute Technologies, which is a women-owned small business and that provides innovative engineering and solutions for the United States Department of Defense and intelligence community. And she provides services to a variety of technologies, including software engineering, systems engineering, etc. Lots of cyber work. And she actually has been doing this since its inception in 2013. And Resolute has experienced quite a high growth volume over the years. And her leadership prior to founding Resolute, Ms. Walker, was served for over a decade as the chief operating officer and a DoD, this is with Pangea, which is a DoD IC engineering company. Through her experiences at both Pangea and Resolute, she achieved a proven track record in business startup and high growth organizations. And while at a Pangea, she had become a key part of every aspect of the organization's operations. And then Pangea, as luck would have it, was acquired by CACI in 2011. And Ms. Walker remained there, leading the Pangea division for CACI for 2 years. And then she does have an MBA, and she moved on over to focus her attention to Startup Resolute. And after 20 years, she's spending time with us today to share some of her insights, and hopefully we can glean some great lessons learned. And thank you very much, Jen. Take it away.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. It's good to be here today. I'm really excited to talk to you all. Like Colleen said, I've been in this industry for over 20 years now. And, I started out, into my early career. I think getting into the Intel community, it was my second job. My first job was in actually environmental litigation for the Army Corps of Engineers, and then I got into the Intel community side of things. So been here in Maryland for quite some time and have been through all different iterations throughout the growth of my career as well as personal life. So work-life balance is a very kind of near and dear topic to my heart in particular. And it's something that I think everybody, whether you have kids or not, whether you plan on having children or not, just in general, can really relate to and know that it is a challenge throughout your entire career profile. But before I get into that, I wanted to, when I was looking at, what I would talk about today, and also, figuring out where I wanted to approach certain things and looking at my lessons learned over the years that I wanted to try to impart upon to you guys to see if there's some things that you might resonate with and that can help you. I actually came across a little anecdote that I read, and I thought this is really interesting. So I wanted to share that with you to kind of kick it off. So basically, if you haven't heard this story, it's about these two lumberjacks. And there's these two lumberjacks, one who is, they both love the woods. They both love what they do. They really enjoy being out in nature and chopping down trees. It's very fulfilling for them. And the first lumberjack, he's a get up at 4 a.m, hit the ground running, shove down breakfast, get out there in the forest, work from, literally first light to, the sun going down, never stopping, work straight through lunch, gets home exhausted, cuts about 10 trees every day, and feels truly fulfilled because he really enjoys what he does. Second lumberjack, who happens to be his neighbor, so they pass by each other all the time, gets up about 7 a.m., takes his time eating breakfast, kind of enjoys, sits out on his front porch, kind of, watches the birds and the squirrels and nature and such, then gets to work. He tends to take a break almost every hour, sometimes every 2 hours. Just to, take 10, 15 minutes or so, sometimes 20 minutes to kind of, again, just have a minute to breathe, watch, the nature around him, enjoy the beauty, talk to any other lumberjacks who are in the area. And then, same thing with his lunch. He always stops for lunch. He makes sure, he takes kind of that break, and then gets back to it. He finishes his day around, 5 or 6 o'clock every night, goes back, and he cuts down 15 trees a day. So after the two lumberjacks have done this for a while, the first lumberjack is finally just like, I don't understand. this is driving me crazy. I'm going to go knock on my neighbor's door and just ask, how does he do it? I am killing myself sun up to sundown, and I'm only cutting 10. He's cutting 15. He's taking breaks. He's watching the freaking squirrels. Like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so finally he goes up to him and he's like, how can you do this? How do you take rests and yet you get all this done? He was like, what is your secret? And the lumberjack, talks to him and says, old friend, I take a break and I rest, I relax, and I sharpen my axe. And I can get so much more done because my axe is sharpened and I am refreshed. And I thought back of that, and to me, this is kind of the perfect analogy, if you will, from my early career to where I am now. Because when I started, I was crazy, hit the ground running, literally sun up to sundown in this industry. This industry was new to me. I don't come from a technical background. My background's actually in geology, which has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. And it's really funny. And I remember just immersing myself, and I was literally in every activity that I could get my hands into in this community to better understand it, and every event that occurred, well into the evenings for those different evening events. I volunteered at FCA, for FMA, for all these different organizations, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, it helped a lot, but there was this constant burnout. And, finally I got to a point in my career, and I'll talk about those steps and those iterations, but just kind of giving you a preview. But, now I'm just much wiser about how I approach my day, about how I approach what I'm trying to accomplish for the day. There's much more strategy and planning that goes into that. And I didn't realize, as much as I strategize and plan for my company and what I'm doing to be successful for our goals and what we need to accomplish, I actually have to do that for myself too. And not just for where I want to be in my career, but also for my work-life balance aspect of it, of what I want to do outside of work, and make sure I'm bringing that into the fold. So today, what I really kind of want to cover is my evolution through my career, and the different things that I had done and learned along the way, and kind of what I wish I would have known and what I would have done if I could start back that 20 plus years ago and be able to go, okay, if I really could, now that I have this crystal ball, I can shake it and say, okay, if I could have done it this way, what is that? I kind of have about a 3-step plan for that to kind of share with you all. And then I want to talk to you about, it's great having a plan, but you got to implement the plan. So how do you execute it and execute successfully? So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And then I also want to bring into the fold about COVID and just some of the things on how COVID has affected things and changed kind of the workplace as we have it today, and how that has affected work-life balance and such. So, and please, I want this to be interactive. So feel free to put things in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on that, but I know Colleen and Catherine and that are going to help me with that as well. I don't know if you're able to unmute and actually talk. So if you can, great. If not, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure we talk to that. But so when I started in this industry, I was married. It was just my husband and myself, no kids as of yet. I was in my early 20s. And again, I've always been a very driven, very type A, very, career focused individual that, knew that I wanted to do great things in this industry, in this community, because I really felt the passion for what we do in protecting the nation. And that meant a lot to me. And I really wanted to always know that I wanted to have a role that was very impactful in those things, that really added value to the people I work with, to the customers, to our partners. And with that, of course, I really wanted to have a plan on how I could continue to grow and continually evolve in that, because I'm a person who, I can't be stagnant. I've got to keep growing, evolving, doing better, doing more, helping more people, that sort of thing. So I was that lumberjack guy, was sun up to sundown. And thank goodness I was very lucky in the fact that my husband works in this community as well. So he understood, although he's different. He is straight technical. He is completely on that side of the house, nothing kind of on the business development, business operations side where I am. So we had a really nice kind of departure between what we do, him really staying in his lane, me staying in mine, but understanding each other and the challenges that we each face for what we need to do for our roles. So that part, at least, was very easy for me to have a partner who really understood the time and energy and effort that I really had to put into my career early on to get a name for myself in the community and to be involved in all these different things and to come home late at night because I was out at an FCA event till 10 or 11 at night at the gala or supporting the gala or whatever it might have been. And, that was great. And we were able to make it work because it was just us. But then when I, became COO for Pangea, the first company that I worked for in this community that Colleen mentioned, and I had my daughter, my first child, Stella. It was funny because I was literally back to work in about a month and a half after her birth, because we were only about, we were probably about 100 people at the time in the company, and we had a very lean infrastructure. And the two co-owners of the company, I mean, I owned everything, and then I just reported up to them. So I handled all the day-to-day, everything with regarding to the company. So they really needed me back. So I came back very quickly, and that was really hard. I still remember to this day crying on my first day back at work. And I've never done that before, but I was so emotional because it was really hard to have my first child, leave her, come back to work so quickly, but realizing that I'm needed there and these are the things I need to do. And these are, again, sacrifices that I needed to make. And I'll get into that in a little bit as well. And then learning to be a new mom and how to juggle work and still be everything that I was before, and just the challenges of feeling like, can I continue to do this at the level that I was? Will my coworkers, will my bosses, will my customers or partners look at me differently now that I have to leave early to go pick up my child from daycare or do the things I need to do to be the mom that I wanted to be? Will my productivity suffer? Will I, and as a woman, especially, in a more male dominated industry, I was very concerned about, I'll be honest with you, showing weakness, showing vulnerability. And it's funny. And then, and again, I'll get into this a little bit later, but that's not a bad thing. It's okay. And that's the thing, I think, we learn as we grow. When we're younger, we don't feel it's okay to show vulnerability and weakness. And it so is. And because this is how you establish, I'm jumping ahead, but this is how you establish those trusted people who will help you and pick you up and support you and continue allowing you to really grow in your career and in your personal life and be able to make all those dreams that you want come true. But then after Stella, about 2 years later, I ended up having Emmett, my son, who ended up actually having some challenges at birth, and he has special needs. So that was another kind of challenge. Now a mom of two, and also having a child with special needs, plus being a COO, running this company and trying to figure out how to be everything that I can and want and need to be to both my career and the company, who are all those people who are counting on me, but as well as my family and my children and my husband. And then, continuing on and just learning. And like I said, I'll get into this in a little bit too, but learning how to just juggle all of things and stumbling my way through it, because literally, you don't know sometimes until you're in it. How do you handle all of those things? And so lots of coordination, lots of communication with, work as well as home life, trying to make those things happen. And then about a year after my son was born, I was pregnant with my twins. So I have 4 kids, for those of you who don't know that. I don't know if I said that in my bio, but I have 4 children. And so having the twins, basically Pangea was sold when right as Emmett was born, my son. And I worked for Khaki and ran the division of Khaki for 2 years. And with that, I had Emmett and then the twins. And so that was a challenge too, because at least I felt at Pangea, okay, I had this reputation, I was built up. They knew I could do these things. They knew I could still, be the mom I wanted to be, as well as still put in everything that I needed to do at work. And I felt, like I was in a bit of a comfort zone there. And then when we sold to Khaki, I thought, here I go again, having to prove myself all over again, prove my value, prove my worth, prove that I can do this, prove that I can be around, prove that they can count on me, that I'm reliable, even though, I'm this mom of 4 and I've got all these things going on. And so, that was very, again, nerve-wracking and those sorts of things. And it was a lot, because I had a lot of lofty goals for myself of where I wanted to go within my career. I'll be quite frank with you. When I went to khaki and after I had 3 kids, well, in that 2-year span with them, they honestly didn't think I would come back. And so it was funny. I came back from my one maternity leave after actually the twins, and I remember literally sitting in my boss's office and them telling me, we didn't think you would come back. We were already interviewing for your position. And we have never had that discussion. I had never made that indication. I had never said that. And I kept thinking to myself too, if I was a man, would they have thought the same thing? No, they wouldn't have. They would have never just made that assumption. And so just some things that, I've never really looked at myself and thought, oh, I'm a woman, I have to do these things differently than men. I just never thought that. I always thought I'm a human just like everybody else, and I'm expect to be treated fairly like everybody else. And but it's funny how these little nuggets that come into my career that kind of resurface and go, okay, still keep going how you're going, but do have this in the back of your mind, because even though you don't have that perception of yourself, you do have to battle sometimes perceptions that are external, and you have to be prepared for that and not let that jade you and not let that make you, upset or really cloud your judgment with things, but just be aware and be prepared for those sorts of things to encounter as a female versus a male in this industry, or just in any really work environment. But getting into really what I learned, and that's, I think, the most important thing that I can really impart and kind of share with you all, is what I learned throughout this and what I would really tell, which I know was a question that somebody wrote in that was really great, what I would tell my younger self if I could look back at it. I've always been this kind of person that was a planner and prepared for things and had lists and organized and itineraries for vacation. God help me and my family. I apologize. But I always felt like this is how we get it done. This is how we get it all in. And what's funny is I had it for work, but I didn't have it for my work-life balance. I didn't have it for my life outside of work. And so many times things kept butting up against it for work. And then I would scramble to figure out, how do I handle these things? How do I handle having a firstborn? How do I handle being a mom of 2 and a mom of special needs? How do I handle not having 4 kids? How do I, it was crazy. And then when I started Resolute, the twins were 9 months when I started Resolute. Emmett was almost 2, Stella was 4. And thinking, God, am I crazy for doing this as well? Starting this company at this time in my life, like, is this really the right time? Maybe I should wait a little bit. And I'm like, no, this is the right time. I'll make it work, because that's when I really clicked to me about planning for my life outside of work is just as important as having a plan for my career growth and progression. So step 1 of my 3-part plan that I would say is really think about the phases of your life. Wherever you are, whether you're just starting out, middle, end of career, whatever it might be, think about those phases and where you have left and what you're going and what you want to do. And definitely, if you have a significant other or any, person, externally in your life that is really important to you that would affect your life outside of work, talk to them and see what theirs are as well, to see if there are certain things that you need to of course coordinate with, and think about those goals that you have for yourself, both personally and professionally. Where do you want to be in your career in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, whatever it might be? Do you want to own your own company? Do you want to be work for the company that you are with T-Rex, and be able to also though say, I want to be a senior technologist by X time. I want to also be able to speak at conferences on behalf of T-Rex, those sorts of things at whatever time frame. When do you even want to retire? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Do you not want to have kids? What hobbies do you have? Because all of these things really play into that external life that do impact your professional life as well. They both are so equally important in my opinion, and you really need to be able to give both justice by planning for both. And I know planning is not for everybody, so you don't have to write out a plan. I'm not saying you have to create all these lists and do all these things, but I think if nothing else, you need to be thinking of these things. You need to take the moment, like the lumberjack did, sit down, not just throughout your day and take those breaks and get that clarity, but for your life, sit down and take those moments to think about. Don't let life just happen and pass you by and juggle and figure it out, as you go and stumble and bumble, because yes, you can do that, but I think it could be a lot smoother if you just took the time to kind of plan and prepare. So kind of that step 2 is, to me, is timelining, is taking all those things you just did and said where you wanted to be in those kind of different phases of your life and what you want to do, and then timeline it if you can. Like actually put it on a timeline that says, okay, in 5 years I want to do this, and this is with my career, and this is what I want to do with family as well. And, do all of those things and really look at those as needs and versus wants. What are the things you really feel you need to accomplish to at your career, the things you really need to have in your life outside of work? You could be so passionate about mountain biking or something like that, or passionate about having children, whatever it might be. Those might be your needs. Like, I have to do those things. And then you might have other things listed in there as well. But those can be kind of tagged as your wants. And there's a reason I think you need to kind of separate those needs versus wants. And also, it's important, I think, from a timeline is if you have, significant other or partner, that you're talking to them about their timeline, because you have to make sure your timelines are lining up. And we kind of get into that a bit with the next step as well. But looking at those overlaps, looking at those competing issues and priorities. If you're both wanting to do the exact same things at the exact same time, yet you also want to have, 4 or 5 kids like I have and do all these different things, how are you going to make all that happen at the same time? So these are things that are able for you to look, identify, and be able to talk through, and we'll get through that in a minute. And then step 3 is taking all of that timeline, taking those needs and wants, and now really looking at prioritization of those. Because again, there might be those things where you are overlapping with your significant other or your partner or whatever it might be. And you need to really start looking at those then and saying, okay, what am I, out of those needs and wants, willing to sacrifice? What are things that can wait? What can I push down the timeline to make sure that I'm getting to accomplish what I want, but so is my significant other? Or I don't have one now, but I imagine that I will at this point, and so I need to make sure that I'm factoring that in, that sort of thing. And just, where you really want to set boundaries and be able to identify what are those things you're willing to do, and like I said, and sacrifice, and the things that you just absolutely aren't, because those need to be things that you need to talk through. And that kind of comes into now the implementation of the plan, which is really, to me, first and foremost, they always talk about creating or having a village that helps you anywhere you are, whether it's helping you raise your family, whether it's just helping you in a new community because you just moved there, helping you at your job because you just, either came to a new job or you've been in it a while and you've kind of got your village of people around you, right? People that you're resonating with, that you tend to trust, that you go to for advice or mentorship or guidance, and that's personally and professionally. So I say, first and foremost, you need to build that village. Who are those people in your village that can help you with that, with, achieving these goals and the dreams and that you want to do to achieve that work-life balance? And communication. I cannot say enough how much communication is so important for something like this, because again, you don't want to discount what your partner or significant other is also on their list as needs, the things that are so important to them. You need to communicate about what you both want to do and how you can get there, and not just communicate with your significant other. It's communicating with your boss, your manager. It's making sure that you're talking with them and that they understand the career goals that you have and the things that you want to achieve. And quite frankly, I'm a very open person, so I talk about a lot with everybody. So I'm definitely, like, when I was at Pangea and I had a boss to speak to, I was definitely letting them know this is also what I want to do in my personal life. Like, I want to have a lot of children. I'm very excited about that, and I want it to, though, not really impact my ability of what I'm doing here at work. But I want to be the mom who is at every recital and at every, play, and at every, I want to at least pick up or drop off. I want to do these. I want to be an active parent in my child's life. And that is going to come with some challenges with work, as it can, with, trying to figure out your daily schedules and those sorts of things. So I was definitely talking with my bosses at the time, and being able to let them know, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I would like to do, and really managing up. I think that's a huge thing to me. You've got to manage up with your boss. What I mean by that is, you've got to not only communicate with them, but you've got to continually make sure that they are understanding and that they're aware of what you're achieving at work, the productivity that you have, the value you add to the organization, all of those things, and giving them the assurances that just because I want to do all these things outside of, work, doesn't mean that work, my productivity or my value or whatever to the organization isn't important, isn't a priority, and that those things will suffer. And that I think is very important, because I think sometimes where managers can get a little bit worried is going, gosh, how are they going to do all this? It's a lot. I'm quite sure that's why the folks, when I was at CACI, were worried, thinking, gosh, now she has 4 children. Is she really going to, come back, or is she going to stay? Because they knew how active of a mom I am. And is she going to stay, or is she going to go, or, what's going to happen? So, to their credit, I understand, succession planning. But at the same time, that also triggered to me as, I'm not doing also a good enough job communicating and making sure that I'm also managing up, and I'm giving my boss the reassurances that, yes, I might leave work to go early to go pick up my child, but then I am, back on doing whatever I need to do to finish up my tasks for the day when I get, back home, or whatever it might be. So it's important to make sure that you are, being very clear and communicative with your boss, that you're helping them understand your career goals, whether you want to weave in, things about your personal goals, and that's completely up to you. I felt the need to do so because of my situation, but again, it's not for everybody. Some people like to keep it completely personal and private, and that's okay. But I think the more you are upfront about at least addressing potential conflicts, things that your managers or your coworkers might be concerned about, to show them that, hey, I'm still the same person. I'm still going to get things done. You can still count on me. I'm still going to be accountable. I'm still going to be able to, you're going to be able to rely on me to do all of these things. And this is my plan, and this is how I'm going to do it. And whether that's just sharing your work schedules, hey, I'm going to be on, like for me, I'll just give you guys an example of myself. I can't start meetings earlier than 9 a.m. because my kids have drop off at 8:45, between 8:45 and 9. So the earliest I can get to the office, if I'm there to drop off at 8:45 exactly, is 9 a.m. And so that's what it is. And my team knows that. So they can't do it, but they also know that, okay, so I have a bit of a wacky work schedule, so you have to bear with me. This isn't for everybody, but I work from 9 and then till I go, if I'm doing kid pickup that day, then I might have to leave at 2:30, and then I go pick up, and then I get home by 4, because we live like a half hour or so from the time where the kids pick up, and have to line up early. It's a whole thing. But anyway, by the time I get home, then I'm back on. And I'm back working until I gotta, make dinner or whatever, and do homework and do some fun stuff with the kids. And then again, I do that, put everybody to bed by 8:30, and then I'm back on again, sometimes till midnight, 1 in the morning, sometimes just for an hour. And it is what it is. And I made that sacrifice as being a business owner, knowing this is what I need to do, and these are the sacrifices I need to make, and I just need to put in these hours to do what I need to do. Not saying that everybody needs to do it that way, or work as many hours as I do, but this is what works for me. And that's why it's funny. Anybody who knows me knows when you see an email from me, I have literally a little tagline at the bottom of my email now, that I was making everybody very clear that your work hours might not sync with my work hours, and that's okay. So if you get an email from me at 1 in the morning, I'm not expecting an answer. So just bear with me, because I did have where my staff, and again, it's all about communication. My staff was thinking, oh my gosh, Jen's emailing me at midnight, and they're having to check their phone. I must email her right away. Oh no. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like this is the life that I chose. This is the sacrifices that I've decided to make. This is not what I'm choosing for my team. This is not what I'm saying they need to do. This is not my expectations for them. So I needed to be more clear and make sure that I'm not only saying that to them, I don't expect you to answer at this time of night. I don't expect you. That's just when I need to work because of the things that I choose to do as a parent. And so now, I think that little tagline on my email has really helped and made things very clear for everybody. But at any rate, I think the big thing, again, take away from there is being communicative with your boss, your manager, and making sure too that, you are letting them know that, just a good rule of thumb is anytime you're going to talk to a manager, whether it's about work-life balance or whatever it might be, is don't come with problems, come with solutions. So here's the deal. I need to leave early every day to pick up my kid. but I will make sure that, I am back on and I am getting my tasking done, and everything will always be done at the deadline that it is set. There, won't be an issue there. And if there's ever, a snafu, this is how we'll handle it, blah, blah, blah. So you're making sure that you're not only just going saying, well, what are you going to do? Like, I need to leave at 3. Then what? Don't look to them to always provide you those answers or responses. Come to them with solutions. But I think they'll really appreciate you coming to them early, coming to them with, this is what, I'd like to do. Is this okay? And this is also my solution for that, to make sure that, the ball's not going to drop here just because I have to do this as well. And I think that's really helpful, to make sure you're just being communicative with them, and also your coworkers, because again, you've got people around you who are also relying on you, and not just your boss. And so you want to make sure that your coworkers never feel that they're being shortchanged for something or what's going on. And they might not be privy to the fact that, yeah, Jen leaves every day at 3, but then Jen's back on at 5, just because I might not send an email to Colleen if she's my coworker, because maybe we're not working on something, but Colleen sees me come in at 9 and leave at 3 every day and is thinking, that's not 8 hours. What's going on? You don't want that. To me, it's get ahead of that perception. Get ahead of it. Always make sure, because I think internally you'll feel better about it as well, because then that people aren't thinking these things, that you can, you're continuing to be productive, and you're continuing to show value to the organization and your coworkers, and they can count on you, and all of these things. And it just lends to less or no drama, which that's a huge thing for me. I don't like drama. I want to keep things simple. That's why I think I am so open and communicative and transparent as much as I can be, because I don't want anyone to ever think or wonder what's going on. I want them to know. So there's that. And I will say, look at some of the things too, that benefits that T-Rex have. They have some great things to help with also achieving work-life balance, which I think is really important. And then the other thing about how to implement the plan that I think is good is setting boundaries for yourself. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier, so that you can achieve your work-life balance. Because, for example, and this is one thing I'm really bad at, and I'm trying to get better, and my kids are reminding me, is we don't allow phones at the dinner table. And we make sure, but I have to say, we don't allow my daughter, my oldest, who's the only one who has a phone, her to have a phone at the dinner table. But my husband and I are on our phone. We're checking work stuff. And then finally the kids were like, no, we watch family movie, or we have a work thing, or a lunch, or I'm sorry, dinner together, and you're on your phone. Like, what are you doing? Like, we have that rule, Mom. Why can't you? And I thought, oh my goodness, what kind of example am I setting? You're absolutely right. So set boundaries where you need to, whether it be, home, work, whatever it is, so that you can make sure that you are achieving that work-life balance that you want, and that you're present in those moments. That's the big thing. I always think, well, I just got to get this off my plate. And I'll be okay. And it's not, but it's still not lending to really giving you that work-life balance, that separation that the lumberjack had when he just sat down, put his axe down, and took a minute. So like your phone is the axe. Put it down. Have a minute. And one thing it was really hard for me to do was learn to say no, and that it's okay to say no. I had a really good friend of mine, who's actually also a friend of Colleen's, Wendy Hawk, who's in our community, literally coached me for a year. Jen, it's okay to say no, because even when I started Resolute and was, running crazy with having the 4 kids plus the company and doing all these things, and, as we were growing, building my infrastructure up, but at first doing everything. And I was also still speaking at AFC and holding board positions for all these volunteer organizations and doing all these different things. And everyone would come, and I always felt like, well, I want to help them. So yeah, I'm going to say yes. She was like, you need to learn to say no, that it's okay. It doesn't mean no forever. It just means no for now. Just means no for now. And I think that's the thing. You need to start to really own your time and really look to be able to prioritize better, and be able to be picky about those extras, not the things you have to do, not the, the tasking at work that you have to get done, or the things at home that you really, need to do and such. It's those extras, that it's okay to not be everything to everyone. It's okay. Really. I'm going to say it again, because it took me forever to be okay with this myself. It is okay to not be everything to everyone. And hold yourself accountable to setting those boundaries, because you really can. It's a slippery slope. You can slide back into it very quickly. Those old bad habits. Really try as hard as you can, because it really will help you refresh and be able to actually be better at work and be more productive at work by being able to have these external things that you enjoy, that you can spend time doing, that you can really just, again, take that break and be refreshed and get back into it when you need to go back to work. And be flexible and adaptable, because you might create a plan. You might say, I'm in my early 20s, I'm just entering the workforce, I can do this, I'm going to start from step one and do this whole plan. Yeah, do it in pencil. It's going to change. It's going to change. What you want is going to change. Your goals are going to change. Timeline's going to shift. Things happen, and be okay with that. Be flexible and be adaptable, and know that those things change. And then also just want to talk a bit about COVID and how COVID has really allowed for a new work experience. COVID, it was funny because I really still feel like, I'll never forget when I was at Pangea, I had this manager who, I should say, one of my bosses, one of the two co-founders, was very concerned about an employee that I had that was under me. She was my top producer as a program manager, hired the most people, best retention, great to work with, but she was a single mom, very similarly situated from would get in, and she lived fairly far away. She was driving about an hour and a half to work every day. And so she'd basically come in late, leave early, but she was present in the office every day, but she would finish up from home every day. And I never had a problem with that because she produced. She was valued. So this was working from home before working from home was cool. And she produced, and she did amazing. And so he would come to me then and be like, she's only here from, X time to X time. That's like 5 hours. She's not working. She's not getting it done. What? And I'm like, no. So again, this was me managing up. I was like, I am not going to go to her and say a word. She is fine. She's producing. She's outproducing all of my other program managers. She's amazing. This is the schedule she needs to keep. I'm okay with it. You're okay with it. All right. And like, that's what but I had to keep managing that because it was a perception issue. And that's why I'm saying, talk to your boss, because your boss might have to manage your perception issue above them. Be communicative, work with that, because and honestly, she works for me today. I've hired her at Resolute, and she's still my #1 producer and still has the same types of schedules. But with COVID, flexibility, remote work, virtual meetings, all of those became not taboo anymore, where before that was just not the thing. If you worked from home, everyone was like, sure, they're working from home today. What are they doing? And now it is, very common, of course. And a lot of folks that I know don't even have offices anymore. They're just, working completely remotely. And I do think that these COVID changes are here to stay, because I do think one of the things we also learned was how productive people can be working from home without all of these distractions and such. And again, it's not for everybody though. So I think we do need to keep, as managers, we need to keep an eye on our team and realize, where is it really helpful for people to be able to do that, who thrives in that type of situation, and who really still needs that touch. Because we really still have some folks that work with me, for example, who, they'll work from home occasionally, but they love to be in the office. They want to see people. They need that human interaction in person. And that is what energizes them, and that's what motivates them. And so that's the thing. You really need to look at what motivates you and what motivates your people and those sorts of things as well, and make sure that you're kind of being aware of that and weaving that in. But the working from home thing can be challenging too, though, because it does tend to, it's there 24/7. So where is that line? It just bleeds together all the time. That's why I'm saying you really need to go back to those steps I talked about and back to that implementation of the plan and set boundaries and be able to really, identify, when am I done with work? When, other than some surge support, some proposals out, some crazy things happening with the customer where you really do need to be on, set your boundaries and stick to them and hold yourself accountable, because otherwise it's true. Working from home, you can work 12, 13 hours and you're like, wow, that was 12, 13 hours. What just happened? I never left this desk. So it's great to be busy and productive. But again, how good was really your work output by being on that long and never getting up and never taking that break? Think about that. And the other thing I want to say, though, about COVID, too, is don't fall into the lull, though, as well, of working from home and becoming isolated. That's the other thing, because I really do think that in any industry you're in, specifically the one we're in, but I think any industry, relationships matter. Relationships aren't built through email. Relationships aren't built through, virtual meetings all the time. it's really nice to be able to see a face in person, to pick up a phone and call people. Take that time, hearing your voice, hearing your tone, hearing the inflection, seeing you in person, seeing your body language. You will build relationships so much stronger and faster, and you will really endear more trust more quickly, and just seeing the genuineness of yourself and your personality and what have you will come through when you're talking to people in that manner versus emails where tone can be misconstrued, the way you say things can be misconstrued, the way you type things can be misconstrued. There's so many pitfalls that can happen because of that. So please stay visible. Take the time to pick up the phone and call and talk to someone. Take the time to go into a meeting, if not, every week, at least as often as you can, to actually see people in person. Because I really do think that will help you not only skyrocket continuously with your career by building those trusted relationships, but also, in the things for achieving that work-life balance. And you're killing some of those perception challenges and such, because you aren't hiding in a little hole, not talking to anybody and just coding all day or whatever it might be. You're taking the time to be visible and making sure people know what you're doing and are aware of you. And I think that's really important too. Yeah, so I feel like I've really talked a lot too, and I want to make sure if there was anything in the chat that I missed or what have you. But I think, like I said, the big things that I really want to make sure that I impart upon everybody is nobody has all the answers for work-life balance and how to do it. There is truly not a secret sauce. There is not a plan that if you just implement this or just do this one thing, it will always work perfectly. You can plan to the best of your ability, but life still happens. Things change, and you just have to be able to roll with it and adapt with it. But I do think the more proactive you can be and the more just self-aware that you can be with what you want to do from your career perspective and from your personal life, whether it's hobbies, whether it's family, whatever it might be, the more self-aware you are, and the more you can understand too the realisticness of your expectations to achieve all of those things, and what time frame you're doing it. I think taking that time to plan and kind of put that pen to paper, if you will, to just take a look at that will really help and bring clarity and will help you understand what you need to do to really make those dreams happen and to give you the impetus to be able to make the choices you need to have that work-life balance, to be able to pull out those sacrifices you're willing to make, or say, I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. So you know what, I'm not going to do that thing over here, or I'm not going to do this thing. It's okay. You don't have to be somebody who did what I did, who wanted to start a company and come hell or high water was going to do it. And, it's okay to just, I just want to go do my 9 to 5 because what I really love and enjoy is, being in the outdoors and mountain biking and hiking and doing all those things. So I'm just going to go be the best 9 to 5er. And then outside of that, that's where I really want to live. And that's okay too. Whatever you want to be, you don't have to have these lofty goal, aspirations for your career. But if you do, you also really need to know how to manage that then to still do the things you want to in your personal life, because don't let work consume you from that perspective too. It's healthier and you will be a better employee by actually stepping away, taking that breath, getting refreshed, and coming back in. So take that time truly for yourself. It's not a bad thing and it is okay. So do we have any questions or anything? I feel like I said, I talk a lot and I know I talk fast, so I apologize.
Chris has got a question.
Oh, no, and he raised his hand and everything.
Hi, Jen.
Give me a softball, Chris.
All right. I'll try. So when I heard you were doing this talk, I was excited because I know you would have a lot of great advice to bring to the table on this topic. And even though you and I have known each other for well over a decade, I know I would always pick up some additional nuggets on like what your life has been like, right, from a career perspective and from a parenting perspective. So I love the lumberjack analogy. I think it's a great one. My question kind of goes back to that, right? So at the front side of this conversation, you mentioned that you used to be lumberjack 1, right? But then over time, you've learned to become lumberjack number 2. Was there a compelling event that made you kind of flip that switch, or was it more like a dimmer switch where you kind of changed and evolved over time?
Yeah, I would say actually it's kind of both. There was one moment that I will never forget from my kids that made me go, and then the other one I'll talk to you about in a minute. But I remember when Stella was first little, and I could have her play on the floor. I'm still in the room with her and I'm working on my laptop and things are good. And then when she got to the age, I remember working on my laptop, and I think she was about 3 or 4 at the time, came over and she slammed my laptop cover closed and she goes, "No, Mama, no more work. You play with me." And I was just like, oh, so like she knew it wasn't enough now just to be present in the room. It was, she knew that I wasn't paying attention to her, that I was, that she was just playing, and that I was still working and doing other things. And it was like, no, 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 no. And I thought, oh, I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm present, but I'm not present. I'm missing these moments, and I need to now really be self-aware of what I'm doing and how I need to restructure my work-life balance to be able to accommodate and really spend that quality time with her, and then of course the other kids as well. And then, so I think there was that which made me really go, I need to do better at this. And then the other thing though, it wasn't overnight. So it was that dimmer switch. It took time because, in the roles that I have held, they've always been, since coming into this community, really kind of those C-level-ish suite type, roles and such. So there was a lot of expectation. There was a lot of responsibility that I couldn't easily forego quickly. So I needed to have time to create that plan and how I was doing that and parse things off as needed, and then be able to kind of achieve a better balance. But I mean, to this day, I still don't think I'm achieving the balance that I want. I'm still working toward it every year as, the kids get older and the different things that occur, and, different things with work and just all of those things. It's every year that I'm looking, saying, okay, what can I do now to better be able to achieve my work-life balance? And how do I still get done what has to be done, and me still perform the roles that really add value to the organization, but still be able to do all these things I want to do as a mom and be very present and be very involved in my kids' lives and such. So it's a constant evolution. It's a constant, I have to think about it, and I have to be very thoughtful and mindful about actively doing those things and really holding myself accountable for them, because I do that slippery slope, and I will be like, oh, phone. And then, it's really good though to have other people, especially your kids, who keep you honest all the time, are like, no, not at the table. And so that's been really helpful for me. But yeah, I would say there was definitely that triggering moment, but there was the dimmer switch to get there.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Anything else?
I had one for you.
Sure.
I was curious. Yeah. So it sounds, I love the managing up and that setting of the expectations. I'm curious if you were just that skilled at it, or if you had leaders that were amenable to that. I mean, did you ever have that struggle where it was a very different expectation coming down, and you're trying to manage it up and sideways and around? And
oh yeah.
Yeah, so tips that you might have on that.
I was never adept right off the bat at learning and knowing all this. This was me, I read a lot of leadership books. I read a lot of communication books. I'm a huge reader, so everything I can get my hands on, I'm always trying to read and learn how to do things better, smarter, all of those sorts of things. And really, it's different from manager to manager. That's the thing. I learned very early on when I was at Pangea. I was working, directly for the CEO, and I remember going in and talking to him about a decision we had to make. And I remember saying, okay, here's a decision we need to make. What do you want to do? And he was just like, I remember him sitting back in the chair and going, I don't know, Jen, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, I thought that this would be a decision that you would make as CEO. And he was like, you're COO. What do you think we should do? I should have, recommendations. You should at least bring me 3 options. I should have this and this, and then you should tell me exactly why I should choose that one. And then it basically should just be me saying, yep, that one's right, and go forward. And I was like, okay, because I was coming into it thinking it was going to be more of a dialogue, like I'm presenting things, but that we would really talk, we work through all these things, and then we would come to a decision sort of together, but he would make the final call and then I would implement. But I was like, okay, no, this is how he wants to see it. And he prefers that, I do all of that. I, do all the research, and then I just bring those nuggets. And then here's the 3 nuggets of those 3 different options. And then here's the choice. Do you agree? Yes, fine, out the door. So he'd rather spend just that 10 minutes with me versus the, half hour to an hour with me working through all the different options and such. And I was thinking, oh, he would really want to be involved because he really, is very involved in the organization and feels that he's going to want to have input in all these different levels. And it was like, no, he didn't. So my misunderstanding of his expectations and also what he wanted. So that triggered me to then go, you know what? I'm not just going to assume I understand or know how any manager that I ever have wants things. I am going to ask. I'm going to make sure, okay, when I'm working on this type of project for you or whatever it might be, how would you want me to, present this to you? What are you exactly looking for me from a product perspective to be able to make the best decision possible? Or how do you want this seen? Or how do you typically like to decision make? Or just different things that help me understand, because everybody's different. Because the other co-founder of that company was very in the weeds. And he wanted the hour-long conversation, and he wanted the deep dive and all that. And I needed to then really tweak my approach to each of those managers when I was talking to them about, the different things that we need to do as an organization and how to decision make. And so getting all three of us together was always a challenge, because you had someone who wanted really high level, someone who wanted the details, and I needed to find that nice middle ground as well. So because we were the only 3 C-suites in the organization, so the 2 co-founders and then myself. So we were often meeting together, and they had such different approaches. That was a very challenging thing to do, but it just took a lot of communication and saying, okay, how do we want to do this? What can we do to be most productive in these kind of conversations? And what do you want to know from me? What is the most important things from you to be able to understand of, what I'm doing or what I'm producing throughout the day, or the things that are going on with the company, so that I can make sure that I'm managing up the right information, because that's important too. You want to make sure you're managing up the right information. So hope that helped.
Yes. All right. We're at 5 minutes. Does anybody else have any questions?
They're not usually this quiet, Jen.
No, that's fine. Oh, I appreciated the time. I really enjoyed talking to everybody. And I hope, even if you just get one nugget out of something that I said, I really hope that it helps. I do, because I feel like in my career, I've made, a lot of mistakes. I think just like, anybody does, because when you're learning as you go, that's what's going to happen. But I think the big thing is what you do with those mistakes, and how you learn from them, and how you change those, and how you are now better prepared for the future, and those sorts of things. And I think that, again, just work-life balance is really important, and it's hard to achieve, and it takes work. And you need to do it, though, because you'll be a better you because of it. So take the time. And it's okay to say no. There.
I had one quick question. That saying no is hard for me in particular, but how do you keep yourself motivated and those around you motivated as well?
Yeah, well, if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of an animated person. I'm very energetic. I love what we do. I'm so excited about, again, just our mission statement for how we help the nation, but also I just like helping people. That's just me. I'm a caregiver. I love to take care of people, and I love to help people. So what excites me is seeing problems to help people fix, or seeing where they want to go with their career, what they want to do, with their personal life, and how we can help them get there. And that, to me, is what excites and motivates me. And then I just always bring that energy level every time we have meetings and we're talking to people. And like I said, just really sharing. I'm just very transparent. I'm really, what you see is truly what you get. And I think that really resonates and helps and gets people excited as well, because they really do see the value of what we're doing and what we provide to people and how we can help people, and that we actually really like doing it. And I think that it just, continues to it's been weaved into our culture. And so that's how I think it kind of just keeps going, and how we kind of motivate. And it starts from the top. It really does. Like, you look at that as your leader, and who your leader is and how they are, and, what resonates with you, what they're saying and what they're doing, and what excites you and excites them and gets you excited. So yeah, I think, we can all set great examples for that. I mean, from, knowing some of you for a really long time and others that I've more recently met, I feel that same vibe with you all. So I think you're definitely doing it too.
Sounds good. I really appreciate your time and your thoroughness.
You are welcome.
You are a good planner.
Yeah.
Yes,
everybody.
I want to thank you as well. I know we're wrapping up. You're getting some kudos in the chat, so I want to thank you for that. And yeah, you did actually speaker a beautiful trick, which is the leading with the story. So kudos on that, because that's a powerful speaking tip. So very good on that. And I think, and I hope everyone was listening on that balance, because I think there's a lot to be said for that, especially us. We're in the middle of a huge startup program, and I know everybody has been burning the candle at both ends. And so I think it's a powerful message to recharge. And I know Shernette is on as our benefits manager, just in the background going, yes, yes. So I know she's happy that they're touting that message as well. So with that, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Jen, so much for your I was so clear how much you prepared and put into it, and we loved it. Thank you again. And if anybody has any questions, you just let us know. But with that, I'm going to stop the recording and thank you again, and then wish you a lovely day.